Welcome to tonight's sneak peek. I am Kristen, and tonight's sneak peek story is brought to you by Your Freedom Project. So, as you're coming in, just please say hi. Let us know where you're tuning in and watching from. And just a little bit about me 11 years ago, I was on the path to becoming a lifetime server, which isn't a terrible career choice, but I definitely had a desire to do something more. But with no post-secondary education, it was very clear that if I wanted to make some progress, I needed to make a change. And then I came across an opportunity that allowed me the flexibility in my schedule, that allowed me the freedom, and allowed me an opportunity to really create the lifestyle that I was looking for. And so here I am today, being able to work from the comfort of my home. And with that, I also have a very special guest tonight who's going to share his story. So tonight's sneak peek story, our guest, Bob Ferguson. When he was a young man, he brought home a bottle of an organic cleaner in March of 1970, and that he'd been given. And he gave it to his mom. And she tried the product and loved it so much. And this small act set the stage for a business for her and a better future for their family. So while his mom put the energy into the business and began with that bottle of organic cleaner, Bob pursued other career tracks, which he will share. And one day when he was visiting, his mom happened to leave very sneakily a copy of her bonus check on the counter, and to Bob's surprise, she was making double what his late father had made for 39 years as a teacher. So this is a huge aha moment for him. And Bob, what I'd like you to do is just come on and share a little bit about how that all started. How did you get going?
Well, it's great, Kristen, and it's a great pleasure to be here with you and all of our guests. Well, as you said, it was March of 1970, and actually the story was a little bit more like this, that I was home from college, one of the number of times I was home from college, and my mother thought she should put me to good use, and so she volunteered me to go help a neighbor friend to get through a math course. Now, I was not much of a mathematician, but I was a lot better than Dora, and so we would go once a week and do algebra. And Nora one time said, Bob, come to the kitchen. I got this organic cleaner that I think your mom would be interested in. And so I said, sure. So I went to the kitchen and she put some butter on my hand and put a drop or two of this blue stuff in there and made me rub it around and stuck it under cold water and all of the oil came off. I go, wow, that's amazing. So she said, give me that bottle. I'll take it home to my mother. And that's really how it happened. And I told my mother that Nora said this will take grease out of anything. And so my mother decided to put it to the test. And my 13-year-old brother had used his pants for a napkin, as 13-year-olds will. And there were greasy handprints on his polyester pants. And so she put some of this stuff on it and threw it in the washer and it all came out. She was mighty impressed. So she started to just get more information. And then she realized that this little bottle of blue stuff actually was a representation of a company whose philosophy completely meshed with hers. She was a social activist and church librarian and on the dump committee, the first recycling dump in Wellesley, Massachusetts, first recycling dump actually to make money, I believe. And so the idea of cleaning products that worked better, cost less, and didn't pollute was a big deal. And she just started to talk to her friends and sold a bottle of June Price and then talked to Gloria. And pretty soon the whole thing started to happen. And it wasn't too long before she decided, particularly after she started using some of the nutritional products and got some pretty remarkable results with long-standing health issues that were really plaguing her and causing her a great deal of pain. And so those pretty much cleared up when she gave her body what it needed. And everyone started to notice. They'd say, Kay, what are you doing? And she would say, well, I'm using this stuff. She said, well, you got any of that stuff to spare? Can I have some of that stuff too? And so that's really how it happened. And the business grew out of that, humble beginnings, into something that is a pretty good-sized operation now after 50 years.
Mm-hmm. That's an incredible start. And so from there, I know that you ended up partnering with your mom. Can you share a little bit about how that got rolling?
Sure. Because at the time, I was still in college, and then I went to some training, and I eventually ended up actually running a program in a maximum security prison for the Department of Mental Health, a stress management program. And that was a completely all-consuming task. It was, and we operated with a little bit of state money and some private money and everything. And I was at the age where you could live on fumes, which I did for a couple of years. But then I was married and my first child was born and the funding finished for the program. And I go, ooh, what do I do now? Well, I'd watched my mom because 2 years earlier, she had built the business and had a wonderful time with my dad. And unfortunately, my dad in 75 was killed in a car wreck. And so there was my mom at age 55 with under $500 of retirement income after 39 years of teaching math at the highest levels internationally, $70 from the VA from navigating aircraft carriers in the Second World War. And that was it, a little bit of insurance money. And so I did notice, even though I knew nothing about business and I was fully engaged in what I was doing, I did notice my mother was still living in the house and still flying to Hawaii to visit my sister. And so somewhere in the faint recesses of my mind, I figured that, well, she must be doing pretty well with that, but I'm not interested this time. Well, things change. And I actually came to talk with her. I said, okay, Mom, John's born, prison program is done. I think I could probably do pretty well with you in the business because I was watching her out of the corner of my eye. And I knew it was more of a teaching business than a other kind of sales business. And I was a teacher, a pretty good one, and in a very high critical situation. And so we sat down, and actually it was then that she pulled out the bonus check. And I remember thinking something intelligent like, ooh, is that per month or per year? And she said, oh, that's per month. I go, ooh, wow. Well, what about this business of ours? And so that's how it started. And so we became partners. That was back in the day when doing the business was a very different thing. Now it's all at the speed of thought. I never touch a product that I don't actually consume myself. Everything is virtual. Everything is electronic. It's all shipped. At that point, Kristen, it may surprise you that in order to get products, we would have to drive our station wagon up to Woburn into the Pacific Internet and Express terminal, back up between the semis, offload products off of a loading dock, and take them back to Wellesley. And then put them in the basement and sell them. So it was a very, very, very different environment, but it worked because the products worked. And people wanted also what it had in terms of an income. We had people who had lost jobs, people who were in a situation of perhaps a divorce and kids at home, and do I go to work? And if I do, I'll make $2.50 an hour net after everything is said and done. And so we had a whole bunch of really heroic people back in 70, 71, 72 that really helped set the course and trajectory for our whole business. So that in brief is beginning.
That's a pretty amazing beginning. And now you have this business that you are obviously reaping the benefits of, your family is reaping the benefits of, and also future generations are going to be able to reap the benefits of, and you're setting them up for life as well, which is pretty phenomenal. That's a pretty sweet legacy to leave your family. And so when it comes to what it is you actually do, because many people are very curious about what is it like, are you out pushing products? What is a typical day-to-day for Bob?
Well, it's really fascinating. I'm not sure I had this language before I started to work with you and Jody and the Freedom Project, but basically the reality of a business like this is that you really can't execute the business with a selling mentality. By focusing on direct sales, you can do that with a lot of products and a lot of structures, but this structure actually rewards education. So basically what I do is I educate people about the products and their value, and then people simply choose. They choose what they want. Educate people that there is a business opportunity. The vast majority of people don't take me up on it, but those who do, for whom it is an appropriate business, it's an absolute godsend. And so that's what I do all day. And then I coach people who are started. My day, at least 3 days of the week, are chopped up into 15-minute segments where I'll just sit on Zoom, even in non-COVID times. And even if it's with someone in town here in Fairfield, there's only 10,000 of us in here, I'll meet people on Zoom rather than get out the door. And so that's what I do. And then I do a lot of other things. But primarily the structure of the business is all set. I just basically guide people through processes. I guide people through a process of understanding about the business. I guide people through a process of understanding about the products. They make up their mind. So it's an all-volunteer army. There's no one being coerced. Everyone here wants to be here, either as a product consumer or as a person who is working on building an income. And then it can be a small income, but since I think the stat is that the difference between losing homes and not losing homes, particularly in stressful times, it's about $300 or $400 a month. That's what families lack. If they had the $300 or $400 a month, they wouldn't lose their home. Well, it's not that difficult to make $300 or $400 a month at something like this. And so it's highly significant for people like that. It's also highly significant for people who want to replace a modest income, $20,000, $30,000 income. That can be done. And if a person wants, in essence, to create a legacy income, then it's just a matter of doing the same thing with more people and having them duplicate. That's the beauty of this. It's our group is made up, our organization is made up of a whole bunch of people doing a little bit. And that whole bunch of people doing a little bit, and there are certain nodes of people we call leaders who are organizing people who are doing just a little bit. But basically, that's the principle. And it's a principle of nature. It's a fractal, if you know what a fractal is. If you look at a tree, the little branch on the outside, on the very edge, looks like the branch that's attached to. That branch looks like the big branch that's attached to, then that branch looks like the whole tree. And so what we're doing in putting a business like this together is just using a fractal principle. We just use a little equation, a little few sets of things that we do. We do them again and again and again and again. And out comes this remarkable structure because our company does all the parts that are the most difficult. They do the research, they do the development, they do the sourcing of material, they do the manufacturing of the process, they do the shipping of the process, they do all of the administration of the process. They even pay the income to even people down in my organization. I'll do any of that. And that's what costs hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars to do. But I get the benefit of creating a business that we own the rights to a chunk of that business. Because the company doesn't sell. We sell, but how do we sell? We sell by virtue of education. We sell by creating fractals within fractals, and those fractals expand. And so a person starting out, their little organization will look like just like mine, except it's smaller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That is exactly what we do. It's not about going out and hounding people. It's about educating and offering that choice and letting that person make that decision. Because, like we've talked about this before, this isn't for everybody, but anyone can do it, which is the critical piece.
Yeah, I should say anyone who chooses to do it can do it. Mm-hmm. That's a very, very big distinction. Yes. But if you can motor around and do things that normal people do, yeah, you can learn. You can learn. Not everyone will learn, but anyone can learn. And if you can learn, then you can execute.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Bob, for sharing tonight. I really appreciate it. I love hearing your story. And just to end this off, I just wanted to share with everybody here, if you want to learn more about what this is about, there we go. The first thing, of course, is if you join the right supplier, this is a few of the benefits that you can enjoy. There's tax advantages involved. You can earn expense paid trips. There's, of course, car programs with most, flexible schedule, and of course the equal opportunity, which is the really critical piece. And so if you want to learn more about an online business, then reach out to the person who invited you to this event and request a guided tour where you can explore and discover what the benefits are, how it works, the products, and of course how to start if this turns out to be an opportunity for you. So I want to thank everybody for joining for the sneak peek. Bob, again, thank you so much for sharing your phenomenal story that has been, I mean, 70 years. That's, my math might be wrong, but isn't that 40 or 50
Uh,
years?
50 years.
50 years.
50 years, yeah. Started when I was 20 and I joined the business when I was 27. So we turned our 50th year this year.
Well, there you go. 50 years, going strong and actually growing stronger as each year comes along. So, so we look forward to seeing you in our upcoming events. So with that, everybody, thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time.